In today's video, we're going to talk about our thoughts on the differences between this four-wheel camper, Granby flatbed model versus our Sprinter van. Hello everybody, welcome to Freely Roaming. My name is Dan.
And I'm Arlene. Today is our last day with the four-wheel.
Yeah.
We're returning it and we cleaned it, so we don't want to mess it up.
It's also really hot.
It's really hot today.
I'm going to be sweating. You're going to hear car noise. You may hear air conditioning running at the hotel that we're staying at. We're only about a 5-mile walk from the factory. Right now, it is a good time for us to go through our experience over the last 7.5 weeks living in this thing. And also, some of that experience is also brought by our former ownership of the Grandby slide-in. So we have some knowledge about the platform from the 2.5 years that we own that. Just this Granby flatbed model and how it's different, and also 5 years of living in the Sprinter van. So we've broken it down to a few different categories.
About 12 different topics that we're going to cover today.
We'll start with the first one, which is?
Okay, looks.
How does this thing look? I think this thing looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
It is very eye-catchy. It is very unique. We get comments everywhere we go.
Yeah, people stop and ask us, what is this?
Does this thing pop up? It's awesome. Looks like it can go anywhere. It's also, this thing is also wrapped with the four-wheel camper website. Has mountains and trees and birds, all that stuff. So it's kind of designed to get attention. So if you want that, this is definitely the vehicle to get from the looks perspective. Now, from being more discreet, this is not that. So if you wanted to just kind of slide under the radar, our Sprinter doesn't necessarily do that either, because it's not just a white van. It's not like completely plain. It has a ladder, has surfboards on the outside. We don't have fancy bumpers in the front because we're trying to keep the length as short as possible, but it does have a roof rack. It has other things that make it less discreet, but still a van is funny to say, compared to this setup, much more discreet. I think both look pretty cool, but I mean, this thing's on 37s.
Yeah.
So that alone, I think it's an eye-catching thing.
I don't know if I can say badass on this channel, but
Sure, you can say badass.
This rig looks more badass than ours.
Yeah, and it is more badass than ours. So it doesn't just look it also plays the part.
Yeah. So the next thing is, how does it drive on
it's
roads?
On road, drivability on road.
Yeah.
So on road, this thing is surprisingly good. I was actually very surprised that with as big a tire as it has, as tall as it is, it doesn't have any kind of meandering steering wheel. This is also a very modern truck. This is a 2021 Ram 3500 with Cummins diesel, over 1,000 pound-feet of torque. So the big tires, the big wheels, the lift, it doesn't make this thing feel underpowered either at all, just because there's so much power under the hood.
Compared to our van, sometimes we wish we had a little bit more oomph, and the capability on road is just, as somebody who has high anxiety when we drive on scary roads, this makes me feel a lot better, and I'm a lot less anxious in this car than the Sprinter. So
this is kind of borderlining on-road versus off-road.
Yeah.
So you're talking about paved roads but narrow, maybe potholy roads. I'm really surprised because I reset the the trip meter when we first got it, and I also reset the fuel economy gauge when we first got it. Right now, from all the different types of traveling we've done, I think we probably did 4,000 plus miles in these last 4.5 weeks. We're over 14 miles per gallon, which is very impressive. And there's been time when I'm going up a steep hill and I'm getting 1 mile per gallon, and that average dipped down to the low teens, 10 or 11. But this last stretch where we drove up from Southern California to Northern California, that average probably 15, 16 even, to bring that average back up. So it's impressive, the fuel economy on this thing, but it is a modern diesel. It takes a lot of def. I've put in that amount of time 30 liters of def in it. Yeah. So, but on-road capability is surprisingly good. I wouldn't say that it is a race car. Doesn't, but you know, going over speed bumps in the Sprinter van, and we're also very heavy. This thing is also very heavy too, but it's not as heavily loaded as our van is. Our van is fully packed.
Yeah.
Our stuff in here is relatively minimal.
We're on vacation mode.
Yeah, but the big tires makes it really squishy. So at no time did we air down the tires at all. We didn't feel like we needed to. And
or hold on for life because there was a speed bump coming. Versus the van, we prep ourselves.
Yeah, and if I can't slow down, and also because the van is so heavy, this thing brakes better because it's also got bigger brakes. It's a heavy duty truck.
But the van still gets better gas mileage overall, which is important for us to save money, especially when we travel internationally and our diesel prices are a lot more, especially when you're in Europe.
Yeah.
In Europe, it was more expensive.
The third topic, naturally, will go to off-road capability. And I think that is one where this one just obliterates the van. I mean, we went to some, you know, pretty off-roady places, but, you know, we also don't go out looking for trouble. We didn't go like mud bogging. We didn't go over like a Colorado mountain pass or anything on a dirt road, but
we did go up the Lost Coast, and it was gravelly with tight switchbacks, which is really hard for the van.
Yeah. It's the extra power makes you feel more confident. The big tires makes you feel confident. The ground clearance makes you feel confident, but it is wider. It's significantly wider, so that if you're going down like a single track narrow road, that might be a little sketchier because it's not as tall when the top is down. There's not as much top heaviness compared to the van. There's nothing on the roof except 3 pretty light solar panels. There are a lot of places where I would have stopped the van, put it into 4-wheel drive, possibly even 4-wheel low to negotiate, especially those steep switchbacks in the Lost Coast. This thing, I didn't even go into 4-wheel drive.
No, and there was a few wild camping spots we checked out just to see if we wanted to stay there or not. And with this thing, we just went. The van, we would have like
stopped, get out, walked down.
And walked into the camp spot
The van does have proper 4-wheel drive, but this truck, this platform wins overall.
Next up, size. Kind of talked about that already.
Yeah, we talked about the size, and by the time we get to the end of this list, we would have touched on a lot of the stuff. But we'll talk about size specifically. This thing is wider. Noticeably wider. I can't tell you exactly. You can probably look up the specs between a Sprinter and a Ram 3500 4x4, but this thing is for sure wider. The 37 tires like stick out even more. I would say between 6 to 9 inches wider than the van, and it's about the same length. I would say 22-ish feet. With the top down, this is lower. However, it's not low enough where you're going to park in the parking garage. So you're still going to be parking far at the end of the parking lot outside. You know, it's comical when we park next to like a regular car. We're parked next to a regular car now. It looks like a toy. This thing is massive.
Yeah.
So size is, I would say, comparable. Both vehicles are going to be relegated to the far reaches of big parking lots so that you can have plenty of space. You're going to take up two parking spaces at a minimum when you go places. If not, you're going to find a place where you can back in, like have your overhang, go over like a, you know, some shrubbery or sidewalk or something. Yeah. So size-wise, I say it's comparable. This one being wider.
Fuel economy. We kind of touched that on road.
So fuel economy, you know, it's, I'm going to say like this one is overall very impressive, and I would even call it better in a lot of cases, because even though the van technically gets probably 1 or 2, maybe 3 more miles per gallon, but the extra power that you get with this vehicle and the extra capability that you get with this vehicle make those couple miles per gallon well worth it.
But we were, in our other video, we had a F250 gas.
Right.
And we were getting like 9 to 11.
Yeah, 12 on a good day.
Yeah, and that, so it was a bigger improvement to get to our 4x4 Sprinter.
And I think our 4x4 Sprinter at the beginning was much lighter also. So we had stock size tires, so now our tires are a little bit bigger. So over time, the Sprinter fuel economy has gotten worse. And this one being better than our F-250 gasser, you know, now we're sort of getting close.
Closing in,
Yeah, the gap is closing.
Okay, we're going to talk about cost now.
For all intents and purposes, if you're going out there and you're either buying this rig, which is Ram 3500 4x4 with the flatbed and the camper to go on the flatbed, tires, lifts, or you buy a 4x4 Sprinter van and have it built out for you, you're going to be looking at pretty much the same cost. I would maybe compare
to a Revel?
Maybe to a Revel, right?
Yeah.
Or whatever the
bigger one is.
The bigger one, yeah, they have a bigger one that has a different name. You're talking about $150,000 to $180,000, everything brand new.
Yeah, for brand
obviously
new.
Used, not that much. We didn't pay that much for ours.
No.
We pay sticker for our cargo van, and then we just kind of built it up over time. We're probably in it close to $100,000. That's self-built. That's saving money at a lot of places. So for us, our van was cheaper than what we can get this thing for because you can't really self-build this. You're buying a ready-made camper. You're buying a flatbed. You're buying a truck. So cost-wise, the van, I would say, from our perspective, is cheaper. But if you're buying ready-made from both, probably about the same. Okay, next we're going to talk about how these two vehicles compare on travel days. I don't know what to call that. But that's just what we call it because we notice a difference on travel days.
Yeah. Travel days means, let's say we stop at the grocery store to run our errands, or somebody needs to go pee, or I need to make a quick coffee because we're tired. Or if we want to stop
for lunch, we don't want to eat out.
So that is our biggest, that's the biggest, like, disparity. Is that the right word?
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing.
Difference.
The biggest difference is with the four-wheel, with the van, I can get out of my seat even when we're driving, if it's safe, but I can...
I see people like lounging in the back of their RVs.
It's an RV. But when we pull over and if I want to make a quick coffee or I want to go pee, I can just do that really quick and get back on the road. It'll take us no time at all. Or make a quick sandwich in the back and then hand them all out and then keep driving.
Or if somebody has to go pee.
Yeah.
Like Luca always waits until the last minute, and he can't hold it anymore. It's much, much, much easier. Like for Luca, we just have him go pee on a tree. With this one, it's much harder to quickly pull over, take care of that, and then go because I got to come out, I got to pop the top, and then we got to maybe move some stuff out of the way. And especially if we're going to be cooking something, making lunch or something. Yeah, that's...
So we find ourselves with the four-wheel eating out more, eating more fast food, which I don't want to do health-wise and money-wise. But that's how our summer's been. A lot more Taco Bell and stuff.
A lot more eating out. But, you know, we're also coming back from a foreign country or a number of foreign countries where we miss some of the foods here. So, you know, so it comes down to like a cost thing also. You're going to spend more money on travel days, like eating out.
Or don't be lazy like us. We're a little bit lazy.
I wouldn't even say lazy, just inconvenient.
Okay, so number 8 is setting up at camp.
Okay, so that's similar.
Similar to driving days.
Yeah, similar to driving days. But the big difference, for us anyways, is that we don't have access to the cab. And if you guys watched the previous video, we talked about when we have all of our stuff in this camper, the cab at camp is full of stuff.
Extra stuff.
So there's a lot of shuffling that happens. So this is a little bit different because we don't have as much stuff. So at camp, the kids actually found themselves sitting in the back seat.
Yeah, so if they if they wanted some quiet time or they were on a call with a friend to play video games, they just went over there, had a little bit of private time.
Yeah, they could open the doors, have breeze come through.
Yeah.
So just another place to sit.
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily say that would be the case if we were living in this full time. I feel like we will have more stuff. We may have to do a bit more shuffling.
Yeah.
But I do also like how open the van is at camp. The sliding door opens up a whole side of the van. The back doors open up, opens up a whole side of the van. But the downside of that is a lot more bugs come in.
Yeah.
So the nice thing about the four-wheel camper is that these 4 big windows all have mesh on them, all have bug screen on them, all the other windows have bug screen on them. The door has a bug screen door, so you can have a lot of windows and even the door open without worrying about bugs getting in.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big plus for the four-wheel camper, but it does feel more enclosed. It's harder to get in and out.
Yeah, we didn't talk about the height earlier, but because we're on 37s and on a flatbed,
Yeah.
we're really tall. We're really tall, and we have
the bottom of the door is 4 foot above the ground, 4 feet above the ground.
yeah.
So
So
it's
climbing
really
in and
tall.
out like without setting up the ladder is a little tough for me, and I mess up my ankle a little bit because I'm climbing on the
Yeah.
tire and I'm clumsy.
I'm surprised
So-
that we didn't have any severe injuries during this time for all 5 of us going
Yeah.
in and out.
I would get one if we were going to buy one lower to the ground, especially
Yeah.
as, I mean, we're not old, but we're getting older. Like
Yeah.
we're in our late 40s
If you
now.
fall out of this,
Yeah,
it's
that's it.
I mean, even for a young person.
Yeah.
So that is more of a thing for flatbeds. Now, our slide-in version did not have this problem.
Yeah. One of the things that we liked when we switched from the four-wheel to the van is we shuffle less.
Yeah.
But in the van, we still
have
end
to
up
shuffle.
shuffling. And when we have like outdoor stuff like chairs and an extra cooler, it's in here. So I know when
Right.
we had our other four-wheel camper, like those pincher bugs went inside our outdoor furniture.
Yeah.
And that means they're in our living space when we're driving.
Right.
The van still has that, but somehow it's like, doesn't seem as, or we just
Yeah.
maybe more careful. But I just remember we had pincher bugs for a while and it drove me crazy.
Yeah.
Or
Maybe
anything-
just the places
yeah.
that we're at too.
Yeah, maybe. The next one I said shuffling and storage, which we already did shuffling, so we can talk about
Okay.
storage.
Storage wise, I feel like when we had the Grandby slide in, when we first bought it, we were really worried about how there was going to be not enough storage.
Yeah.
But we were surprised after we moved in how much storage there was, and there was sort of all hidden away.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is kind of the same case. There's a lot of storage under these seats. There's storage in here. And I feel like that if we were living in this, if this was ours, we would
Yeah.
modify it to have even more storage.
And we'll make another video of what we would do to modify it
Yeah.
for a family to live in here
Yeah.
full time, which not this video.
Yeah,
Next
so
one.
storage-wise, I feel like a DIY van is going to have a lot more storage, just because there's more internal volume to begin with. On top of it, you can maximize all your space. But the caveat is that it feels more open in here, because that there's less storage, there's no overhead compartments, there's, like bigger
We
floor,
can totally
like
stretch
wider.
out more here. We
Yeah.
couldn't do this in the van.
No, especially when we started adding,
Yeah.
overhead thing, cabinet, we
Yeah.
started adding other stuff. It
Yeah.
it felt more closed in.
Yeah. Well, this
So-
flatbed is different too because now we have storage underneath the cab over bed. But also, I didn't talk about like on driving days or camp setup. That's like another hard thing is if I don't pre-plan things, like if the kids like, oh, we saw a river and we want to grab our bathing
Yeah.
suits or
Yeah.
grab the Starlink that's underneath the kids'
Right.
bed, we have to pop up to get to under, like we
Yeah.
can get to the storage underneath these cushions, like where we're sitting, like in the main dinette, easy. But I have to pre-plan what's underneath the bed.
Right. I think the big thing about storage here is that there is storage. There's a fair amount of storage. They're just not as accessible.
Yeah.
It's harder to access. Next one, we're going to talk about
Weather and hot and cold and condensation also.
the van is insulated. We built it with as much insulation as we could put in with the time that we had. And we insulated everything, the doors, the roof, the sides, all the
Yeah.
stuff. Naturally, for this camper being soft sides, these soft sides don't have insulation. Now you can get a factory thermal pack, which adds like a quilted layer over it, and you can leave it on there all the time, which is a solution. We actually bought it for our four-wheel camper, the Grandby slide-in, but we never used it because we sold it before it was actually delivered to us. So the new owner has it, and our friends who have this with the thermal packs, they say it's great.
Yeah.
So I think that's the experience that we don't personally have, but given our previous experience, this is a better summer rig, and the van is a better sort of all-season rig, because this is again soft sides, and also because it's a pop-up, you're gonna have more noise in windy conditions. So in In the winter, in the shoulder seasons, you may get more windy days, and you may not enjoy that. But in the summer, it's really great because like I said before, these windows are huge. They all have bug screens, so you can open them all up all the time and have just tons of air circulate through here, which makes it easier.
I also feel like people can hear us a little bit more in here, so I'll have to
For sure.
be more self-conscious of our noise level versus the van. I think it holds our noise in.
The van, I mean, I've stood outside when the kids are like excited and yelling in there. It just sounds like muffled,
Yeah.
So here it's like you can hear people clearly.
Yeah.
When we're at the 4 Camper Rally, we walk through camp, you can hear people talking in their campers.
So, and condensation.
One of our biggest problems with the slide-in is in winter, because there were 5 of us in there, because it uses a propane furnace heater, and for a number of other reasons, temperature difference and all that season, we had tons of condensation on this fabric.
And on the stripping.
And on these, because there's like aluminum underneath this. This is a integral, or it's internal aluminum frame. Where the metal is, the temperature difference caused like water to beat up.
Yeah.
In winter, we were doing a lot of daily just like wiping, because otherwise it would just drip down, fall down, and would get stuff wet and would get mold.
We were also new to living small, so I think we should have ran the heater and the fans more at the same time. But I think we were scared because of the kids.
They were younger.
Too much ventilation. I don't know.
They were also younger, and when they were babies, they were prone to like respiratory problems when it got cold, so we were worried about that. And also with the thermal pack, the condensation is far less of an issue, is what we've heard. But our personal experience is that, again, this is a good summer rig. Can be good for winter if you do the right things, but the van is better when the weather gets a little bit colder.
I mean, it could have condensation happening, but we don't see it, and so that's another problem of it. We could have mold growing, and we just don't know.
Maybe. I don't think so, though, because the condensation will have to be on the metal walls, and there's just a lot of layers. So I think, and we run the fan a lot in the van, so I think we're good.
Yeah.
The next one is how these two rigs compare when it comes to international travel.
Right.
International travel, you're going to run into the same situations because both of these rigs are diesel, so you have to figure out how you negotiate that. There are ways to do it. Our friend from Tuck's Truck, Marcus Tuck, has an extensive list of things that he does for his Iveco Daily, which is a modern diesel that he bought in the UK, and he traveled around the world with it. We'll put that link down below for you guys to figure out things you can do to take a modern diesel. It's challenging, it's tricky, and it's convoluted, but it's a good read if you're interested in that. So both of those are going to have the same problems. Now, I feel like the Ram platform itself is a little bit more challenging to take traveling internationally because it's harder to find parts.
A lot of like upgrades, like on this particular, like this is not ours, but if our Sprinter has a lot more things in metric system, versus this one does not. So this would also be like anything that's upgraded.
Yeah, so like the way that the suspension's been upgraded, and the way that the rock slider has been upgraded, there could be a lot of standard / Imperial hardware that's holding that up. That's fine. It's just you have to maybe bring some spares with you. If any of those things fail, you have to make sure you have the right hardware to put it back together. The other thing is this camper itself isn't necessarily built using things that you would want to use internationally. For example, use a lot of propane. Like it uses propane for heat, right? It uses propane for stove, obviously. Since we're here this summer, we didn't use the propane for heat that much. I think we used it one night.
Yeah.
So we went through a far less propane, but if you were doing this in the winter, you would go through a lot of propane, and filling these American bottles internationally is challenging. So one of the first things I would do is figure out some other way to do heat, diesel heater or something. Other than that, I think it's pretty good. To fill water from here requires a hose, or you have to kind of lift water like pretty high up, like 5-6 feet off the ground to get to the water fill.
Yeah.
So that could be challenging in places where you can't fill with a hose and you have to fill with jugs.
Yeah.
So I remember having to do that even in our slide-in one in Mexico.
Yeah, that was hard, yeah.
That was very hard. So you want some kind of maybe transfer pump even, but that just adds complexity. Definitely can do it. And also internationally, depending on where you go to, the weather might be a factor. So again, this is better for summer, not quite as set up as is for winter, but it can be done. And people do it. People have traveled all over the world in four-wheel campers.
Right.
Okay, so lastly,
yeah.
How do these two rigs compare to with our cats in it? Or
Like,
just pets in general?
Yeah. So I guess we didn't even talk about kids, but...
Yeah, also we can just talk about kids too.
But it's the same thing as you're shuffling. You're shuffling the kids and the cats, or if you have a dog, of getting out of the cab and then coming into a separate living compartment, versus the van, the cats are just free.
Yeah.
So if they need to go, they usually don't go to the bathroom when we drive. They don't want to drink or eat or anything. They just sleep or look out the window. But if we were on a long driving day, the cats have access to their litter and their
Comes down
food.
to there's no pass-through.
Yeah.
From the cab to the living space. There's no pass-through. There is a little window where the rear sliding window would be.
Yeah.
So you could make this a window and then have the other one window open up and do a pass-through. We didn't get that option when we bought our Grandby before, because we were told that is notoriously a place that it could leak.
Yeah, it's a failure point. It makes sense.
So we didn't get it, so this one doesn't have it.
Yeah.
So every time you have to go in and out, you got to bring the cats out and bring it back. And if they're going to be there for a while, we maybe pop the top. So again, it's the same kind of thing. It's a little bit less convenient.
Yeah, but I will say, like, when I do, like, we're going to the grocery store running an errand and it's hot out, if I transfer the cats with the top down, it is cooler in here than the van or while this is popped up. So I turn on this fan on high, I crack one of the windows and I put a little stopper.
Huge volumes of air come through.
So it circulates and I can actually leave the cats in here at higher temps than I can in the van.
Well, when it's hotter outside, it stays much cooler in here for longer.
So that's a plus side, but I'm shuffling cats.
But for cats, though, cats don't mind being in, like,
Yeah.
you know, tidy spaces. They prefer it. Yeah. But for a dog,
yeah, it's different.
A dog may not like it.
Yeah.
So I think we talked about a lot of stuff. There's probably some things we missed. So if you have any specific questions that we didn't cover, leave them in the comments below.
And I think a lot of people, like, as we share on Instagram that we're in this 4-wheel for the summer, it's our summer rental. Which one do we want to live in? And they all have their pros and cons.
Yeah.
And there's not one that's better than the other. It's like, what's important to you?
And then also your style of travel.
Yeah.
Right? I think for our style of travel, like, we would be in one of these again if we were traveling places where this platform is more suitable. Like, if we're going to be doing a lot more off-road places, we're going to be places where we can get, you know, service on a Ram platform or even a big American truck platform.
Yeah.
I'd love the idea that we didn't really feel like the terrain was limiting us at all. We went everywhere that we wanted to go. And without any concerns, we just went.
And the living space, like, we all fit in here just fine. The kids actually had a bigger bed than they do in the van.
Yeah.
So they actually could stretch out a little bit more. We
have friends that we thought they knew us, and we're like, we're going to be in a Granby. They're like, ooh, that's going to be tight with 5 people. Yeah. I'm like, I thought you knew us. We lived in one just like it, or not just like it, smaller than it. Yeah. So this actually worked out really, really good. Now, the only thing is this bed being a full-size bed, even though technically the bed itself is the same, but since I sleep against this wall, I'm actually closed in on all 4 sides. 3 sides by a wall, the 4th side by Marlene.
Are you calling me a side?
Yeah. So I can't, sometimes, you know, when you're in the bed, like, your feet may hang over, your arms may go over, you may want to, like, I couldn't do that any direction I went, you know, it was obstructed. A couple of moments I did feel a little claustrophobic.
You're a claustrophobic kind of person also.
I can't get that feeling when I have to, like, I gotta get outside. Yeah. You know, those are a couple extra things that we thought we'd bring up. We love this setup, and we really thank 4-Wheel Campers for lending us this for the summer. It made this summer amazing, made it all possible. We're really sad that we have to give it back tomorrow.
Yeah.
So
we're excited to see everybody again.
Yeah.
At the factory.
That's right. We'll see you guys tomorrow. You guys don't know this yet, and by the time this goes up, you guys would have had this back for probably days, if not weeks. But thank you guys again for allowing us to experience the Granby Flatbed this summer. We had an amazing time.
And thank you everybody for watching. Leave us questions down below and we'll do our best to answer them.
See you guys in the next one.
Bye.